Hi there, you're on Gossip Says channel. Enjoy watching, subscribe and like it. It's growing our community. OP is jealous of his wife's ex. My wife said something strange about her ex, and it's really getting to me. I'm 31 plank mass. She's 31 Fahrenheit. The 19th of March 2020. My wife and I have been married for 4 years. I will call her Abby. We love each other, have a great marriage, and are talking about having kids soon. I really don't have any complaints. But before Abby met me, she was with a guy, Brock, for 2 years. She said she was madly in love with him but had to leave him because he was verbally abusive. Shortly after she left Brock, she met me, and the rest is history. I thought it went without saying that Abby had forgotten about Brock. However, there have been some odd things that she has said about him that make me nervous or even a little jealous. She once told me that Brock was so good looking that she had a hard time making eye contact. This was in the context of a conversation about why she put up with his abuse for so long. And when I replayed what she said, she's never said that I was too good looking to look at. It's almost like she said Brock was more attractive, and it hurt. I didn't bring this up though because she sometimes gets upset when I mention Brock. There's also been a few times where she mentioned something that Brock used to do, and she's have this wistful look on her face, almost like she was still enamored with him. This wasn't 100% clear though, and it didn't happen often, so I let it slide. I have told Abby in the past that I felt a little jealous because Brock seemed like a more attractive man than me, but she assured me that she didn't think of him that way and that she loved me. All this being said, my wife said something a bit odd about Brock 2 nights ago, and it's been messing with my head. We were sitting on the couch watching Netflix, and Abby had been drinking a bit. We somehow got on the subject of feet, and how we both thought feet were gross and didn't understand why some people liked feet. I held my bare foot up and said something like, "Can you imagine someone liking my feet? I have gross feet." Abby laughed and agreed that my feet were gross. This wasn't particularly hurtful, her tone was playful. Then after a few seconds, Abby said the only person's feet I would ever consider attractive is Brock's feet. He had the most beautiful feet. As you can imagine, this killed the conversation, but Abby didn't seem to notice. She was staring off into space. I just went back to watching TV. The next morning, when we woke up, she acted like nothing happened. And maybe she really didn't remember, because she was drunk and it was an offhand remark. But it's been bugging me for the past couple of days. Not just because it was about Brock, but because my feet were ugly, then said his were beautiful. Maybe it's silly, but it made me feel really insecure and jealous. Abby has noticed that something is off about me. She asked earlier this morning if something is wrong. I denied it, but I don't think I can just forget about this like I want to. I'm thinking I will need to sit down with her and talk about the Brock situation. We are cooped up together for the next 2 weeks at least, so that makes things complicated. It's not like one of us can leave if the conversation goes sour. And I hope it doesn't come to that. But any advice on how to broach this subject? Should I broach it at all? Update. My wife said something strange about her ex, and it's really getting to me. I'm 31 plank mass. She's 31 Fahrenheit. The 22nd of March 2020. Told her my wife occasionally talks about her ex as though she misses him. And then the other night she said he was the only guy she ever knew with beautiful feet. Yeah, weird, but also hurtful towards me and my nasty feet. So I actually tried to post this the very next morning, while replies to my first post were still streaming in, because I talked to Abby almost immediately and consider the issue largely settled. Automod deleted it, so I've had to wait a couple days. In hindsight, I'm glad I've had to wait because it gave me more time to consider the responses I received. First of all, I wanted to thank everyone who responded yesterday. Unfortunately, I did receive a bit of bizarre advice. A number of users called my wife an alpha widow. Still others told me to divorce her immediately because she must be cheating. I had a few users calling my wife a bitch. This was a sobering reminder that anonymous internet people don't understand the nuances of my marriage, and people tend to project their own insecurities onto other people's situations. So I'd advise anyone considering posting here use discretion in what advice you take. Just to get ahead of some of the speculation, Brock has lived in South Korea for 2 years. He is prohibited by a court order from contacting Abby, and I have open access to her DMs anyway. If she were cheating, I'd be the first to know. Please subscribe, leave comments, rate videos, and click the bell not to miss my videos. I also received some great advice about trauma bonding and recovering from abusive exes. These responses were the most helpful. All this said, here's what I posted about that night. I was sitting on the bed last night, just kind of brooding, when Abby came in. She sat on the bed next to me and looked at me. She must have known something was up because I haven't been myself these last few days and our bedroom has been dead since the feet comment. Abby asked me if everything was okay. I gave her a weary smile and said no, I suppose not. She frowned and asked if we could talk about it. I sighed heavily and was quiet for a few moments. Abby didn't look nervous or defensive. She looked genuinely concerned. So I figured she must not be aware of how hurtful her Brock comments have been, and I should just be honest. I started by asking if she was willing to be 100% honest with me. She said that she was. So then I asked if she's happy being married to me, and if she'd prefer being with someone else instead. She seemed a little taken aback by the question and said she would never dream of marrying someone else. My voice was shaking the whole time and Abby looked like she was ready to cry, too. Finally, I lay everything out. I tell Abby that a few nights ago, we were talking about feet, and she had said that my feet were gross, but Brock's feet were beautiful. I said maybe it sounds really silly and dumb, but that comment made me feel really ugly and it broke my heart. She gasped and started crying at this point. I said there's been a few other times where she mentioned Brock and acted like she really missed him, because he sounded enamored when she talked about him. I said I think that Brock was probably a lot more attractive than me and she would have preferred staying with him over me. Abby cried for a long time before she was able to say anything. It was probably only 2 minutes, but it felt like forever. She said she didn't realize that she was mentioning Brock that way and upsetting me so much. She said she couldn't imagine marrying anyone else but me. I said even though I'm uglier than Brock. And she started crying again, like really bawling. After she pulled herself together again, she admitted that Brock was a very attractive man and that she had been infatuated with him. It seemed extremely difficult for her to get those words out. But Brock had also been controlling and incredibly cruel. She never felt safe or at ease with him, but she did feel safe with me. She said she had married me and wanted children with me, and that she had never even dreamed of marrying Brock, let alone having kids with him. Then we talked about some deeper, more personal stuff that I'd rather not go into here. I did mention some of the trauma bonding stuff that some Redditors had mentioned last night, and Abby admitted that she had felt addicted to the drama while she was with Brock. She agreed to talk with her counselor about her unresolved issues with that past relationship. The conversation took well over an hour and we both cried a lot. But I did feel much better afterwards. We cuddled for a while before I joked that I guess Abby was stuck with my nasty feet for life. She took my head in her hands and said she thought I had the most beautiful feet in the world, because they were mine. We made out and made love for the first time in a week. Maybe that's TMI, but I figured a lot of folks here would appreciate a happy ending. So, I guess the issue is largely settled. I do think that maybe I overreacted a little, but my feelings at being inadvertently made to feel less attractive were real. I'm glad I didn't second-guess my emotions and suppress them. Thank you to everyone who offered advice in the original thread. It seems the situation has been resolved. Edit. Though I will add that I still feel a little sad that I am not as attractive as Abby's ex. Not because I'm jealous, but because I want to be the best she's ever had in every way, including physically. But I guess I simply have to make peace with the fact that I'm not the most attractive guy Abby has been with. I suppose a lot of us have to make peace with that, huh? Edit 2. I appreciate all your kind words. I would like to add that I did not consider the situation magically over, but I count it as resolved because Abby and I are both moving in the right direction and actively working on fixing this. I would also like to add that even with this positive update, I am seeing some disappointing comments. Users saying that I'm immature, that my wife is definitely totally cheating on me, that I am a troll making this whole thing up because my writing style isn't very good, that this sub is a terrible place to share a serious marital issue and I shouldn't have done it, etc. etc. I also a few interesting PMs trying to rope me into some kind of anti-woman community, and one instructing me to kill myself. I've read that Reddit can be toxic, but this has been eye-opening. I do want to post an update maybe a month down the road, but I do think in light of all this negativity, that maybe I will just leave things here. There is a lot that I did not post here, and I mean a lot. I guess it's understandable that some people are treating this as their blank canvas to project their own insecurities. Thank you to everyone who provided positive input and constructive criticism. Story 2. Man's wife cheated on him but says it's not her fault. Sharing interests. May 31st. The wife and I have been married for 3 beautiful years. Problem is she doesn't enjoy my hobbies as much as I do. The missus used to happily join me on adventures such as camping or fishing. Now she won't so much as go on a simple hike with me. We have a 7-year-old and since the kiddo, these adventures have been a little tough to plan and follow through with, which I understand, but it can be hard on me. I like to get out at least once a week to clear the mind, but now that's been reduced to around once a month. She is upset every time I leave on a quick trip to the Rockies, etc., because I'm not helping enough with the kid. I've told her numerous times they should both come along, but she never agrees to this as she no longer enjoys those type of things. Should I give up on the sights I love to see and adventures I can't help but indulge in? I do want to be there for my family, but I can't cut these things out of my life forever. But that's what she expects of me. Advice is greatly appreciated. Op is asked how often his wife gets to leave without the kid. She has girls' weekends nights out around once a week to every other week. She just doesn't like camping anymore, and she definitely doesn't like me camping either. She for sure does most of the hard work with our child as I have a job, and I greatly appreciate her for it. When she goes out with the ladies, I'm there for the kiddo, and if she need a break, there I am. It's no problem, I just want to camp more is all. June 29, 22. My wife cheated on me and says it's not her fault. This past weekend, the kiddo and I went on a 2-day camping trip for some father-son bonding time. My wife doesn't like camping herself at all anymore and doesn't even appreciate our kid and I going. This is a big hobby for me and I want to share with my son. Usually we argue a lot about my trips, especially if I request to bring our child. But this time she was oddly cooperative about the whole thing, but still insisted she wouldn't join us. I was surprised but didn't question anything because I was so excited that she was finally allowing us to go and I didn't want her to change her mind. I thought we had finally found a common ground and the arguments were ending. I was wrong. We had a great trip and returned back on Monday. We expected to come home to an empty house as my wife should have been at her office for a few more hours. I walked the kid up to his room as he was exhausted and ready for a nap. After, I walked into our bedroom to find a naked man in my bed. I recognized him as my wife's co-worker whom I have met numerous times at her work functions. At first I was in disbelief and even wondered if I was in the right house. Then my wife walked out of our bathroom, also naked, and I had no more doubts. She looked petrified when she saw me. I have never been so angry. I yelled at the dude to get out of my house so I could speak to my wife. He grabbed his clothes and left. Then we started arguing. I never yell at my wife. We always want to keep things civil for our son, but I was so hurt I was screaming. Then my wife decides to get defensive, saying it's not her fault that I am barely around and camp so much, even though I hardly go on trips anymore, because she doesn't like it. She says that's what drove me to do this. You are neglect to this family. I was in tears at that point. I just don't understand how her cheating could be my fault. When I turned around to leave, my son was standing in the doorway and I felt terrible for yelling. I quickly consoled him, but my wife snapped at me again, telling me to get my hands off him. Now she won't speak to me and says I can't see my child until I apologize. Apologize for what? She said we could go on this trip. She planned to cheat, and that kills me. It makes me wonder if she has done this before. I'm stuck staying with my parents right now. I don't know what to do. I want to see my son. I'm worried I really scared my child, and of course I would apologize to him. Just not my wife, but maybe it is my fault. Told her my wife cheated on me while my son and I were on a camping trip. She says it's my fault for camping too much. Update. I'm back home now. Decided it was best to get here ASAP. Things are quiet, but I am relieved to be back in the same space as my son. Thank you all for the advice and kind words. It means so much. I'll keep you all updated if you'd like. Edit. Thank you all again for the support. I appreciate it. Sorry I can't reply to everyone. There's a lot of you and things are tough right now. But thank you so much. Edit. In case of any confusion, I am Canadian. July 6th. This is a follow-up to my last post about my cheating wife. For the past week, I have been working with a lawyer to initiate the process of divorce and gaining full custody of my son, with the exception of visitation for now until more is resolved. Things were awkward and tense for the first few days of me being back home, so my wife, using wife to keep things simple and identities private, decided to leave to stay with the guy I found naked with her. I'm disappointed at the example she's setting for our son, but this makes my decision to divorce even more concrete. I will continue to share as much as I can if that's what people would like, but of course, court has its confidentialities that I must keep within boundaries of. I want to thank everyone for the continued support you all have shown me throughout this tough time in my life. I really do appreciate it. Edit. I just want to note, please don't just blame women. Use this situation to be misogynistic. July 26th, my now ex-wife revealed she is pregnant with a man she cheated with and no longer wants to see our child. This is another and most likely final update about my ex. See my past posts for more information if you'd like. I expected my last update to be the final post regarding my marriage, but this felt like a necessary thing to share. Last week I received several texts from my ex saying she was pregnant with an unknown man's child. Obviously meaning she cheated with multiple other people before the one I found out about. She said she plans to keep the baby and start a family with her coworker. Other posts have context. She also mentioned that she wouldn't be fighting me for custody of our son. I told her I would be willing to split the custody or at least keep visitation rights for the sake of the kiddo, but she insisted she didn't care about that anymore. I am honestly in awe. I'm shocked she has given up on everything about the family we had, but I am most hurt for my son. At the end of the day, she isn't worth wasting any more of my energy on. I have been spending every moment I can with my kid and will continue to do so. I'm starting to feel more like myself again, and I can't wait to get back into adventures and nature. I'd like to say a final thanks to everyone for the support and encouragement. I will always be grateful for that. Please subscribe, leave comments, rate videos, and click the bell not to miss my videos.